Thank you very much for inviting me here. I'm really honored. I'm honored and I'm intimidated. So many alert ladies waiting to listen to me, and I hope not to disappoint you. Usually what happens when there are gents around, after lunch, they shamelessly sleep. But I'm so surprised to see you all alert and waiting to listen to me very eagerly. I really want to thank Mrinalini for giving me this opportunity to interact with you all. Sometime back when I had met her along with Devin, she told me that she has done a great deal of research on a topic of common interest. And that time I was wondering, then why did she leave her research? And why is she doing what she's doing now? And only now I realize that her contribution, Devin's contribution, Mr. Funchical's contribution of your committee, all those people who are contributing towards this event, how important it is for nation building. I come from a different planet altogether, really. Mrs. Ranjan would know. Okay, she has been an Air Warrior's wife. We are totally removed from the kind of value system that is here, the kind of imperatives that you work under. Ours is a different life. So for 43 years, in 1975, when I joined the NDA, and till the time I retired in September last year, I've been in a different orbit. Just to explain to you, okay, Sudhir gave a wonderful speech, and I found it quite inspirational. When I was commanding 15th Squadron, we had these things we write everywhere. Things start with like fighter pilots do it better. And this kind of inspiring, motivational placards are all over the place. So one placard that I got put there was that if you want to be average, join the Indian cricket team. The second placard that was there very prominently where you go to sign for an aircraft, it said, warfighter first and foremost. A good professional next. And the last line in small print was, try and be a good human being. So our perspective is different when you're a warfighter. Our perspective is different when day to day you deal with things that are related to life and death. And there your basal instincts, okay, they sometimes are given a little more importance. Not that it's bad, okay, if you look across the world, countries that are developed very fast, they've developed very fast because there is a distinctly military mindset that is built into everybody there. Okay. But then, even these countries also, it's not the strong armies that have made this country successful. It is the smart schools that have made this country successful. When I was in India, I had two course mates who were from Singapore, Lim Kok Feng and James Lee. That time we were staying in Goa and they wanted to have a look at Goa, so I called them over. My father was very proud that I was joining the forces. Earlier, my uncle was a doctor in the army. But a hardcore warfighter, my father was distinctly proud. And that time, few people from Goa had joined, NDA. And I was interviewed and things like that. It had come in paper that Shirish Deo joins NDA. Not a big deal, really, but, I got some publicity. So my father was really, irrationally proud. So when Lim Kok Feng and we were having dinner, okay, he asked them. For him, it was a rhetorical question. Okay, he asked, which is the most coveted profession in Singapore. And he thought he already knew the answer. So Lim Kok Feng had a very pensive face. And he said, you know, uncle, both of us actually, we tried our best to be teachers, but we are not good enough. That's why I joined the forge. That's how important teaching is. And if a nation is to progress as fast as we need to progress, then you're the key. There's a movie that I saw a long time back. Okay. I'm going to refer to 2-3 movie examples because I find it's a very powerful medium and you can really connect. This movie was about Lion of the Desert. That's somebody who rebelled against Italians. And that guy says that a man lives for 3 days. One for himself, okay, one for his family, and third is for his children and grandchildren. So as a teacher, you're actually perpetually living in the third day. May not be your children. But what you can do to them will have a lasting effect, a very profound effect on our nation and on humanity. Because they're so easily moldable. As we say in Forge, you know, if you want to remember something, we use mnemonics. You know, so we had mnemonics for everything, a long list of checks, HT, FFG, HT. So H, there was a mnemonic here to remember mnemonics. Cadbury drinking milk, very tasty, CDMVT. Okay, so we used to make mnemonics. So mnemonics here are simple words. A, B, C, D, and last E. You know what A stands for? I'll just spend 2 minutes on each, maybe give you an example. A stands for adventure. Please inculcate the sense of adventure in the children under your charge. It is extremely important for nation building. You build a generation that is risk averse like our generation. All our endeavors are doomed to fail. Bring up children who have a spark of adventure in them. Change your syllabus. Change your physical training in a manner that there is a sense of adventure, there is a sense of risk-taking in the children under your charge. It is extremely important not only for survival, but for progress. Next, what you see in India, what you call Hindu rate of growth, what you call, this passive trading attitude and not manufacturing, okay, that comes out of this passivity. So inculcate a touch of aggression in children. Don't discourage it altogether. Focused aggression, tunneled aggression always helps you achieve stuff. In fact, in my profession, my earlier profession, fighter flying, it's all about tunneled aggression. You can't be passive. This has got various names. If you feel aggression is a word that is too harsh and not politically correct, okay, call it burning desire, like Sudhir says. But focus that burning desire on specifics. In Japan, in high schools abroad, in most countries, in Singapore, boxing is a part of the curriculum, not only cricket. Why would teach a child boxing? Why would you teach him judo? so that this instinct for aggression is developed and controlled. So you have a school in Gurgaon now, where he is taught in a typical Indian manner, not too much of emphasis on sports, only studies, but yet he gets a pistol to the class and shoots his classmate dead. That kind of uncontrolled aggression, that kind of bullying will come in when aggression is not given a channel, when rest of the students defer to bullies, get scared of them. So, A for adventure, A for aggression. And attitude will come by and by. Okay. Next is B. B is for bonding. You may think, when I was told that, there's some few words that were spoken and more or less it meant that I'm ready to be a martyr and I would like to shed my blood. Far from it. I don't want to shed my blood. I want to shed my enemy's blood. Okay, and Patton, in that movie Patton, expressed this very colorfully. Okay. So what is bonding? They say patriotism is the first casualty in war, and that is true. Nobody fights for his country. I've been in many situations where it's risky, you don't know whether you're going to come out alive. But the thought of you doing anything for your country is far from it. The first thought is that you can't let down the people that you're bonding with. For army, the first thought is for your Pulton. For the Navy, the first thought is for the ship and ship's crew or your mates. In the Air Force, it's for your squadron, it's for your unit. In fighter flying, it's also for yourself, your professional pride. These are the things that motivate people to do what they do. Why do you think a chap whose arm is shot up, the bones are shattered, he has been taken 3 bullets in his stomach? Okay, his ear is blown off. But yet, with the left hand, okay, he is holding a LMG and is climbing the height of, 19,000 feet and taking out an enemy bunker. Why would he do that? You think he did it for his country? That thought is last in his mind. It's about his Pulton ka izzat. That is how important bonding is. You will see it elsewhere too. You'll see in the bureaucracy. You see how the batchmates, they work for each other. You ask the doctors, okay, when the 2 batchmates get together, 4, 5 of them get together, your IQ level suddenly drops, non-drinkers start drinking, and you get back to your old ways. So this bonding is extremely important. And the second part of B starts with be brief. Brief. Means don't talk too much, as I'm doing now. Okay. I'm a bit of a lacanophile. Lacanophile is somebody who really appreciates Spartans. But that's only for others. I appreciate that in others. I talk a lot myself. Spartans traditionally spoke very little. Okay. In fact, before the Battle of Thermopylae, if you go to Greece, okay, you will find there's a statue of this king. And on that statue is written very clearly, at the Battle of Thermopylae, Xerxes gave a big speech. And in the end, he said, so therefore, drop your weapons. So for that almost an hour-long speech, the response from this king was very clear. Just come and get them. So that's what is written there. As Indians, we tend to talk a lot. If an idea can be expressed in, 2-3 sentences, we have to use minimum 20. So our ability to be brief, to the point, is extremely important, and that should be taught in schools. You start with sentences like, what I actually mean is, please, why don't you say it the first time? Why do you have to explain what you actually mean? So it is not only verbal communication or written communication that needs to be brief, but somebody has said brevity is the soul of wit. You also need to understand that brevity brings about elegance in everything that you do. It brings elegance in your thoughts. So please tell your children, teach them to be brief, whether it is the written word, whether it is the verbal communication that you're teaching them. They need to be brief. C is for character. Now, I wish I could tell you a lot about character. Okay. But my character is like Salman Khan's. It's not too good. Right, at 4 times, there you are. So in this movie, since not many have seen it, I'll very briefly give you what is the plot of that movie. The plot of that movie is Al Pacino is a Marine colonel, who has been medically boarded out because he's lost his sight. And he's lost his sight because he's juggling around with hand grenades. And one thing goes wrong and one grenade explodes and loses his sight. He has decided to kill himself. And he wants to sort of, splurge before putting a bullet in his head. So his daughter says he's coming to New York to enjoy. She tells one school student to basically look after him. He's a high school student who is going to graduate, and he's supposed to look after him. So they have a great time. I'll not get into that. But what happens in the end is, this guy is studying in a very prestigious school and he's on a scholarship. And he's hoping to get to Harvard, get a recommendation for Harvard. And there are 3 students who play a prank on the principal. So all the principals here. And the principal is livid that this prank has been played on him. And he wants to catch these guys. So this particular student and a rich industrialist son, they seem to know who they are, they're witnesses. But they refuse to rat on these guys. They refuse to snitch. So there's a disciplinary proceeding. In that disciplinary proceeding, the other guy, his father is a big businessman. So he gets advice and he tells him that actually he wears specs. So therefore he could not see very clearly who it was. So only Charlie remains. He's a witness who can fix this guys. So now they're putting pressure on Charlie, and there's a disciplinary committee meeting like this, which is very intimidating, where they tell him that either you snitch on these guys or we will terminate you from here. And privately, he is also told that if you tell their names, you will get a recommendation for Harvard. So when these things are going on, he tells, are you going to tell or you're not going to tell? That is the time Al Pacino walks in. And he gives a speech that is there on YouTube. Please, watch that speech. It is as inspirational as anything else that you must have heard earlier. It's on the YouTube. Just Google for Scent of a Woman, Al Pacino school speech. Okay. It's Scent of a Woman is the movie. Al Pacino is the actor who gives the speech in the school. What that tells you is what is character. Character really shows in adversity. Character shows when you're under fire. Character shows when you're caught doing something naughty, not too naughty, and who's the guy who gives up first? Okay, character shows there. So, instill these elements of character in the children that you see by your behavior, by your talk. You'll be surprised how these young minds, they absorb things that you think nobody would notice. The next C is for courage. By courage, I mean not only intellectual courage, but physical courage. Physical courage is something that you need to develop. Physical courage is an attitude. Getting scared and being courageous are two entirely different things. Courage is ability to do things in spite of being scared. If you're not scared, you're foolish. So children must develop this courage. And how is this courage developed? Courage is developed by ensuring that children read about courageous people. People read about Douglas Bader, people read about Chandrasekhar Azad, about Bhagat Singh. At the same time, people read about traitors, people read about deserters. So there is a compare and contrast. You will find, if you know who's a Quisling, people in European nations immediately know. It's taught in schools. Who's a Quisling? In fact, now Quisling is it's become a sort of an adjective in the dictionary. But if you ask our people who's Mir Jafar, they will not know who's Mir Jafar. The chap who compromised this country to East India Company is Mir Jafar. And तब उसके नाम पे तो एक बस्ती है अभी बैराकपुर के पास. Okay. So this is something that I see that is distinct and different from other civilizations. Okay. Here we are far too forgiving of traitors and of deserters, people who are traitors to a cause. It's, sort of we find ourselves very understanding. And that goes against inculcating this element of courage, physical courage, into our children. It was there in our time because we are brought up by a generation that still talked about how good things were in the British times. Okay. So really, not too many kind thoughts in my mind. A lot of respect for my parents. They made what I am. But the generation then, I want to ask them, why did they stay under British rule for 200 years? They had no self-respect. Fortunately, the generation now, they have more self-respect. I see young people now, and I find it so encouraging that at last, they will get our country to speed that my generation couldn't. Next is D. D is for discipline. I must tell you a small incident. We were in Taverne in France, and one lady officer was driving us around. We came at a crossroad. Okay. where there were no obstructions. We could clearly see that ours was the only car. There was no car anywhere, no traffic at all. Yet, because it was written there, stop and proceed, she stopped. For 5 seconds, she looked to the right, looked to the left, and then we said, look how disciplined the French guys are. So we complimented her on her discipline. I told her, apne India mein aisa nahi hota hai. In fact, I must tell you, I was picked up in Chennai and we were driving to the hotel. It was around 11:30 at night, and we stopped at a red light. We stopped at a red light and we found that everybody was zooming past. Nobody was caring about the red light. So, after some time, okay, one vehicle came and stopped next to our vehicle. Okay, as it is another guy who was, honoring the red light, but actually rolled his window down and he told, start moving, somebody will come and hammer you from behind. Okay, so we told that girl, you're so disciplined. So she said, you know what? There are 2 cameras here. I have already been caught twice. Third time I get caught, I will not be able to drive for the next 1 year. So discipline is something that has to be taught. Discipline is something that has to be exercised. Discipline is something that can come from within. Yes, but there has to be a structure that tells you that you need to be disciplined. And I can't tell you how important discipline is. The guy who organized Osama bin Laden's execution, okay, SEAL Team 6, the chap who was in charge of that whole operation was Admiral McRaven. So Admiral McRaven has written a book. And what does that book say? I'm so sorry. Obviously, I'm indisciplined. So what does that book say? That book says that if you want to change the world, please get up in the morning and make your bed properly. Okay? How many of you heard of Admiral McRaven and his book? That's also on YouTube. Great. There you are. So that is discipline. Discipline should be seen in, everything that you do. Ask the guys in Singapore. Whenever we had a break, midterm break we had in NDA, we would not touch our hair. Okay? Everything was planned in a manner that your last haircut was planned in NDA in such a manner that you came out of the NDA, you had long hair. And then you had to go around, you had to show off to the girls. Okay, so your hair had to be long. You can't be that NDA kind of, crew cut. But this guy, Lim Kok Feng, the Singaporean guys, before they're going for a midterm, they're going for a haircut. I said, what's wrong with you? Why are you going for a haircut now? He said, no, Shirish, the problem in Singapore is that if you're long hair, and let's say you're in a queue for a cinema ticket, okay, now is your turn to buy the ticket, and the cashier there, she notices that you've got long hair, she'll send you to the rear of the queue again. That is why Singapore has made progress the way it has made, because they're so disciplined. और अपने ही लोग, ओके, यहाँ तम्बाकू खा के चुप ऐसा करेंगे, जब सिंगापुर में जब जाएंगे, so when they come back from there, they said, what a clean place here. So why not here? So it's extremely important that you teach your children discipline in a manner that it is, children can take a lot of discipline if it is sort of imposed on them very softly. Okay. Now, I can tell you, okay, I never done those kind of things. I was very scared what was told to Mrs. Ranjan. I was a strict disciplinarian, but I was very harsh. That's a mistake that I made. Okay, when you come to E, then I will tell you how it can be done. So discipline is extremely important for progress. Discipline is extremely important for our nation. Next, D is for detail. Detail. D is for detail. We rarely pay attention to detail. Okay, it's in our engineering. Okay, our engineers, they graduate from IIT. Okay, he forgets about engineering in the first chance that he gets, and he starts selling, soap and toothpaste. Why the countries like Japan, Germany, where they are after a Second World War, where they lost the war, that is because they pay attention to detail. They don't just talk. Why details are important? We have a reputation for not paying attention to detail. Detail in the sense that if I want to keep this bottle in the center, if I'm told, I'll keep it here. Chalta hai. That's not correct. Details, if the bottle is to be kept here, it will be kept here. There's an anecdote that I must tell you, not very flattering one. Prince Philip, Britain की जो queen है, उसका husband. He's a nasty, racist old man. Okay, it's commonly acknowledged. Okay, no love lost with him at all. But he was walking past the Albert Hall, and you see this light switches. Okay, if you see the light switch that is here, it has been put at an angle. Okay, this light switch here, you get to see it's been put at an angle. It's not straight. The light switch was put like this, and this chap, he had the gall to observe, but unfortunately, rightly so. Has this been put by an Indian? That is the reputation that we carry, that we don't pay attention to detail. You must pay attention to detail. Only then things work. And last but not the least, and the most important, E is for encouragement and enthusiasm. And nowhere is it more applicable than when you are looking after children. In fact, there was an experiment that was carried out. Okay. They chose 3 students. Okay. One was what is called a geek and a nerd, who has got no athletic skills. Okay. Who really doesn't know, who has never played basketball. Okay. Then they chose an average chap. And then they chose somebody who was basketball captain. Okay. And they gave them 10 baskets. Okay. So they had to take that basketball, and they had 10 tries at putting the ball to the hoop. And there were spectators all around. So in the first experiment, the spectators were disinterested. They were passing snide remarks on their skills, even before they started this, started taking their tries at throwing the ball. The performance of all these 3 people was really pathetic. Even an experienced basketball player, when these guys were, what were they called, sledging, okay, really couldn't perform well. A few days later, they repeated the experiment. Here, the audience that were watching this show, they were all paid actors. They were very encouraging. It showed on their face. And the performance of all these three people, it improved remarkably. Particularly those guys who had no skills at all, the nerds, the geeks. They could also score well. It's only because of encouragement. So encouragement and enthusiasm, they are the last, because after you run through the gamut of A, B, C, D, E, encouragement and enthusiasm is what will give you results. Okay? That said, I want to once again thank you very much for listening to me patiently and unnerving as it is to interact with an alert audience after lunch. Okay, I understand now what Mohanji said some time back. Okay, he always makes very apt observations, and the observation that he made was that Mata pehli guru hoti hai, and that is true. Okay, what you're doing, ladies, is far more important than I had ever done in my life. Okay, what you will contribute to the nation is far more than me and many like me have done for our nation. We have been selfish. Okay, we have been satisfying our instinct for violence. We have been satisfying our instinct for adventure. Okay, we've been satisfying our basal needs, whereas you are giving. Okay, and thank you very much for your service to the nation. Thank you very much. Jai Hind.
Thank you, sir.